Kyle Busch rolls into this weekend carrying a brutal 99-race winless drought on his shoulders. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Daily NASCAR. Glad you're here today. We're diving deep into the current point standings, and trust me, there is a LOT happening right now. Mark Martin apparently shared some wisdom with Carson Hocevar, and it looks like that guidance is already paying off. Meanwhile, Daniel Suarez is proving that his off-season switch to Spire was one of the smartest moves anybody made heading into 2026. But before we get into all of that, if you're a passionate NASCAR fan who keeps up with this sport every single week, take a second and smash that like button and subscribe to Daily NASCAR. We're a brand new channel working toward 1,000 subscribers, and if you appreciate genuine, honest NASCAR discussion, you've landed in the right place. Completely new championship structure this season. The win in your format is gone. Playoff points are gone. Simple. Top 16 in the standings when the regular season wraps up earn their spot in the chase. A single victory isn't going to bail out an entire season of mediocre results. Consistency is everything now. We're 6 races deep, and that gives us enough data to identify some real patterns. Let's kick it off with Brad Keselowski. You have to hand it to RFK Racing right now. All 3 drivers are positioned 12th or higher. We figured this revised format would benefit Chris Bouchier. Always reliable, rarely makes costly errors. But Keselowski is the one who really stands out. He ended last season with momentum, but then we learned about his broken femur. That had me genuinely worried. Keselowski himself said that's a 6-month recovery. Yet this man was back behind the wheel at Daytona barely 2 months later. Through 6 races, he hasn't finished worse than 20th. Not a single disastrous day. He's comfortably inside the top 10 in points. Came close to capturing the Daytona 500. Was right in the thick of things at Darlington this past Sunday. Brad Keselowski is as tough as they come. An absolute grinder whether cameras are rolling or not. Enormous credit for putting together such a strong opening stretch to 2026. Reigning champion Kyle Larson sits right next to Keselowski, currently 10th in points. Not bad at all. He's got a 37-plus point margin above the chase qualification line. Larson is going to make the chase. Zero concern about that, but the real objective is defending his championship. He's already 149 points behind leader Tyler Reddick. That number 1 seed enters the chase with a 25-point advantage. He's 30, 40, 50 points behind Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Blaney. His minimum target should be top 5 in regular season points. But he's not getting there by throwing away races like he did at Atlanta when he wrecked himself off the front of Shane Van Gisbergen's car, or the end of Darlington where he tagged the wall, damaged a toe link, and wound up 32nd. He threw away 20 points in the closing laps for absolutely nothing. Under the old format, those mistakes were survivable. Not anymore. Consistency matters more than ever. And Larson, for all his incredible talent, has battled that consistency demon at times. Something worth monitoring going forward. Now, Spire Motorsports. They've got cars sitting 13th, 14th, and MC Dowell is tied for 16th with Joey Logano right on the chase boundary. What a start. Daniel Suarez has that 7 car performing at a level it's arguably never reached. Ryan Sparks, veteran crew chief, has injected serious energy into that operation. MC Dowell delivered a top 5 at COTA and 9th at Phoenix. Though IDs say he's dropped off the past couple weeks. Hocevar and Suarez both showed top 5 speed at Darlington, while MC Dowell was invisible all afternoon. Hard to envision all 3 making the chase. I still believe Carson Hocevar has the strongest chance of the group, but the bigger goal for Spire is getting to victory lane. And when you look at what Hocevar has shown between Bowman Gray, Daytona, Atlanta, and Darlington, he's demonstrated legitimate winning speed this season. Here's where it gets really interesting. Mark Martin, the Hall of Famer, apparently pulled Hocevar aside at Darlington and offered guidance. Carson shared the details on a live stream this week. He said Mark told him to drive like Mark Martin until 25 laps remaining. Then with 25 to go drive like a hurricane. That's precisely what we watched on Sunday. Hocevar had to fire off from the back after bending some components in practice. Quiet opening to his afternoon. But as the race wore on, he found speed on the longer runs. Slicing through the field, picking off cars, making his presence known. He attacked like a hurricane down the stretch. But the only reason he was in position to do that was because he drove like Mark Martin through the first 3 quarters. He protected his equipment, stayed patient, stayed composed, stayed smart when restraint was needed. That's the fine line Hocevar has wrestled with finding throughout his young career. He found it Sunday at one of the most unforgiving tracks on the schedule. Perhaps that conversation with Mark Martin was a pivotal moment in his development. I believe he's going to find victory lane this year. Quick spotlight on another quietly strong start. Zane Smith is 19th in points, which doesn't look spectacular on the surface. But his front row teammates are down in 29th and 30th. I've been a believer in Zane Smith for a while now. He's back at front row where he belongs and clearly carrying the flag for that organization. 2 top 10 finishes at superspeedways to open the year, plus a solid 14th at Las Vegas. Should have had a top 10 at COTA, but got knocked around on a late restart. This weekend at Martinsville is critical for the team, especially for his teammate Todd Gilliland. Todd showed top 10 potential at the Paperclip last season and won a truck race here years ago. He needs to start clawing back points, and that mission begins this weekend. But Zane Smith deserves recognition. He's a Truck Series champion showing genuine Cup Series pace even without the best equipment. All right, now, the final and honestly most concerning portion of this breakdown. Richard Childress Racing, Kyle Busch is 23rd in points. Austin Dillon is 26th. It has not been a promising start to 2026 for RCR's Cup operation. Dillon is carrying a 23, 0 average finish, which would be his career worst. Busch has a 21, 2 average finish, which would also be his career worst. A really telling statistic surfaced from reporter Seth Eggert. He pointed out that the only Cup seasons where RCR failed to record a single top 10 through 6 races were 1982 and 2026. RCR has never in their history started a Cup season without collecting at least 1 top 10 through 7 races while competing full-time. That means 2026 is currently on pace to become the worst statistical season in the entire history of Richard Childress Racing. People enjoy criticizing Austin Dillon, saying he's only there because his grandfather owns the team. But Dillon made the chase roughly 5 out of 8 years toward the end of the Gen 6 era. That's not bad in equipment that's never been considered truly elite. He consistently squeezed more out of those cars than people gave him credit for. And Kyle Busch, 2-time champion, future Hall of Famer, most victorious driver across all 3 National Series in NASCAR history. That lineup has no business producing RCR's worst statistical season ever. That's unacceptable. And the main reason I wanted to highlight this is because heading into Martinsville, Kyle Busch is staring at 99 races without a victory. If he doesn't collect a grandfather clock Sunday, that number hits triple digits. 100 races since his last Cup triumph. Nearly 3 full calendar years. Busch recently sat down with Kevin Harvick and dropped some remarkably honest observations. He acknowledged wondering whether the equipment limits him somewhat, but he immediately followed that up by admitting he's also hurt the team at various moments. He referenced the Kansas race last year where he wrecked while leading, trying to make an aggressive pass on the outside. He owned the fact that he squandered some genuinely promising runs. Kyle Busch clearly hasn't mastered the next-gen car like some competitors, but RCR as an organization has also lost its footing. Back in 2022, RCR captured 4 victories between Reddick and Dillon. Both made the chase. That was year 1 of the next gen. RCR had been deeply involved in early prototype development. They had a head start. When Busch arrived in 2023, they were still near peak performance. But as rival teams expanded their knowledge base, RCR couldn't maintain the pace. This could be a genuine crossroads season. Busch is in his final contract year. I think it's fairly transparent he would welcome landing somewhere more competitive. But he's also working with first-year crew chief Jim Pulliam, from JR Motorsports, who had recent success with Justin Allgaier. This rough start could genuinely be the byproduct of a new crew chief finding his footing. That Daytona 500 pole was eye-catching, but one qualifying session sent representative of a complete body of work. Building chemistry between Pulliam and Busch takes time. I'm not abandoning hope on the 8 team yet, but there have been concerning indicators. Austin Dillon has been outpacing Kyle Busch in raw speed at Phoenix, Las Vegas, and Darlington. They both qualified inside the top 10 but showed nothing in race pace. Austin Dillon running ahead of Kyle Busch on pure speed is troubling. That's not how the hierarchy should work. Can RCR turn this ship around? What happens if Busch walks away after this season? Who fills his seat? Jesse Love, the reigning O'Reilly champion, is an obvious candidate, but if he has other options available, he'd be wise to explore every avenue. RCR is off to their worst Cup start ever with a future Hall of Famer in the car. Their O'Reilly program fires on all cylinders as always, but the Cup side is far from ideal right now. What are your expectations for Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon this season? What direction does Busch go in the offseason? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I appreciate every single one of you watching. Drop a like if you got value from this video. Subscribe to Daily NASCAR for real NASCAR conversation every week throughout the entire season. Have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.